I am the Empress's personal bodyguard. We have been through life and death together, sharing mutual affection. Later, her new lover ordered my tendons to be cut, then covered my face with layers upon layers of wet paper. Air slowly left me as I gasped, and in my struggle, I heard the Empress and him laughing intimately. That day, the Empress was in high spirits and asked, "It's been a while since I saw Chen." Summon him. Oh, she didn't know yet? I had already been turned into a clay statue by her beloved. I stood in their courtyard. How about we meet in hell together? Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. Yun Han is the Empress Yin Hongmei's beloved, the future prince consort of Qi dynasty, the head of the harem. And I am just Yin Hongmei's hidden guard. Yun Han hates me deeply because I killed his younger brother. That day, after a long time without summoning me, Yin Hongmei came to see me in the side wing, smiling. This place is a cage she crafted for me with her own hands. Chen, I missed you. From childhood to adulthood, whenever she had something for me to do, she used this soft tone. It turned out that Yun Han's younger brother conspired with her third sister, planning a rebellion. She needed to kill Yun Han's brother to eliminate dissent, but I had to take the blame. She kindly concocted a ridiculous reason. Out of jealousy for the future prince consort, I accidentally killed his brother because of past grievances. Couldn't be more natural. Today, she's wearing a turquoise everyday robe, which lessens her imperial majesty, making her look cute and charming. Holding my arm, she breathed out softly, "Chen, would you please agree? Your Majesty holds great power. Why not directly order his death? I'm afraid Yun Han will be mad at me." I smiled bitterly. It was all for Yun Han. Yin Hongmei is a decisive, cold-hearted empress. Yet she has a genuine heart. But only for Yun Han. I once envied him. But now I feel nothing. Your Majesty, my old injuries have not healed. Forgive my inability. Yin Hongmei's smile suddenly vanished. Her face turned coldly elegant, a faint smile at the corners of her lips, her fingers tapping lightly on the table. The sound hit my heart one tap at a time. She looked at me deeply, her voice lazy. "Oh, Chen is disobedient, huh?" This statement chilled my heart. To ensure loyalty to their masters, every hidden guard consumes bone penetration. Without regular doses, the whole body suffers excruciating pain, something no ordinary person can endure. If one endures it, it's a new world altogether. No one has tried except me. That day, I bit on a wooden stick, enduring bone-tearing pain, galloping towards the city's outskirts. Endure a little longer, traverse a bit further, and I'd be free. When the bone penetration took effect, I fell off my horse. A pair of silver-white boots appeared in front of me. Looking up, I saw Yin Hongmei, dressed in the same sturdy outfit, staring coldly. Her fair face was covered in frost. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. "Oh, Chen is disobedient, huh?" She looked at me, her eyes suddenly filled with a bit of frantic heat. "Chen can withstand bone penetration. Then there's only implanting a goo. Only for Chen, the mother goo inside me, the child goo inside Chen. We will never be apart. Okay?" She opened her palm, revealing a pill. "Eat it. Eat it, and if I left her by more than half the capital's distance, my bones would shatter, leading to death." I refused. She clapped her hands, and two bound people were brought forward. It was my younger brother, Jie, and my maid, Mu Jiao. They were supposed to have gone beyond the frontier, but now they fell into Yin Hongmei's hands. Each had a rope tied around them, linked to the necks of two horses. Yin Hongmei smiled, waving her jade hand. My heart trembled. These were my closest kin. The horses started running, and Jie and Mu Jiao were dragged to the ground instantly. The gravel on the ground quickly scratched their faces and bodies. Blood spots spread, shocking to see. Jie cried, "Brother, brother, help, it hurts." Mu Jiao bit her lips tightly, her face pale and bloodied. Yet she didn't utter a sound. You should know, Mu Jiao is a girl who usually cries loudly at a finger cut. She did this for me, wishing for my freedom, for me to live. Only she knew, staying in that imperial city any longer would mean death for me. My entire body was in such pain that my finger bones nearly shattered. Crawling on the ground, I muttered, "I'll eat it. Release them." In Hongmei smiled. Chen is so obedient. Thoughts returned. I sighed. After it's done, can I leave the capital? Just another person to kill. Yun Han's brother had been a scourge for a long time. Greedy and lecherous, he once even harassed Mu Jiao. Killing him would be ridding the people of harm. In Hongmei smiled. You want to leave me again, Chen? Have you forgotten? You once said you'd always be with me. Chen, if you leave, I might not be able to resist tearing your good brother and good maid to pieces and feeding them to dogs. Sunlight poured through the heavy window lattice into her eyes, clear and bright, reflecting only my image, as if I were her only love. Once I saw only her and she only saw the Qi mountains and rivers. Later, her eyes had Yun Han as well. I was saddeningly aware that I was merely a convenient pawn for her. She actually didn't know. I wasn't going to live much longer. I was dying, and whether I stayed or left didn't matter. She had no say in it. I had been following In Hongmei since I was 8. My parents died early, leaving me and my brother, Jie, as orphans. To gather money for Jie's medical treatment, at the age of 8, I sold myself into the hidden guard camp. The hidden guard camp served the royal family, risking their lives for the princes and princesses, often doing unspeakable deeds. That same year, 8-year-old In Hongmei came to the hidden guard camp to choose a personal guard. In Hongmei selected me because I could endure pain. At 8, she was delicate and charming, a porcelain doll. She stared at me for a long moment with her beautiful, crystal-clear eyes. Her smile was as bright as the sun. In her fair palm lay a sugar pill. Chen, a gift for our first meeting, eat it. I didn't doubt her, quickly swallowing it. Chen, run to the east of the city. I want to test your stamina. I was always confident in my stamina. Facing the sun, I ran lightly as a swallow. As I neared the east of the city, my steps grew heavier, and my whole body ached as if pricked by needles. The pain blurred my vision, and the sun seemed green. Just as I was about to faint, I heard a silver bell-like laugh. "Ha-ha, this one's good. Able to run this far after eating bone penetration without the antidote. I'll take him." From then on, I was a hidden guard for In Hongmei. I thought she was a heartless and cold-blooded master, but I hadn't expected her kindness to be so genuine. She had a tutor teach me to read and write. She took pity on Mu Jiao, who was fighting dogs for a bun on the street. She said, "My Chen also needs someone to care for him. Bring her back to the residence." Everyone envied me. A hidden guard having a maid was unprecedented. In Hongmei would even personally cook noodles for my birthday. Though they were the worst noodles I had ever eaten, I finished them completely because her rare flour-covered face looked at me with anticipation. "Chen, is it tasty?" "Chen, I've never cooked for anyone before." Only at these times did she not seem like a princess wielding the power of life and death, but like a charming girl next door. Sometimes, she would invite me to drink tea and enjoy the moon. In her white dress, she looked like a fragile fairy. "Chen, do you know why I like you the most?" I shook my head. "Because you are very much like me, very enduring." In Hongmei was the most unappreciated princess. The former empress disliked her because In Hongmei's father's status was low. He had also been a refugee. Thus, In Hongmei was never considered for the crown princess. "Everything I have, I fought for." She could endure 50 lashes without a sound to seek the empress's forgiveness, turning her back into a bloody mess. She could kneel every step of the way for 3,800 steps to the temple, praying for the empress's health. "Chen, do you know why I want the throne of the Qi dynasty? I studied all those statecraft strategies to keep the nation stable and the people safe." She raised her cup to the silver-white moon in the sky. Moonlight bathed her eyes, making them breathtakingly beautiful. "To have fewer street children like you." This statement broke my defenses. Indeed, if the court hadn't waged external wars for years and didn't heavily tax, My parents might not have died from untreated illness. I was deeply immersed in her royal vision and her girlish tenderness. From then on, I was willing to be her blade. Like now, I killed Yun Han's brother for her. I didn't assassinate him in secret. Doing so would defeat the purpose of taking the blame. In the whorehouse, before everyone, I started a dispute with him. Then, with one swift strike, I slit his throat. As the most skilled guard in the hidden guard camp over the last decade, this was my easiest assassination mission, but also the one where I was most severely injured. When Yun Han learned his beloved brother had died by my hand, he pressed a sword to my throat, drawing a bead of blood. In Hongmei merely said softly, "Spare his life." Yun Han's eyes were dark with fury, his hatred barely contained as he pierced my shoulder blade with his sword. "Send him to the water dungeon." Jie knelt, begging for mercy. Mu Jiao, disregarding her status as a maid, kowtowed, causing her head to bleed. "Your Majesty, Master Chen's old wounds haven't healed. He'll die in the water dungeon." Mu Jiao cast a resentful glance at Yun Han. Master Chen was also injured saving Yun Han. Last year, during In Hongmei's final battle to ascend the throne, Yun Han, weak in martial arts, was captured by the enemy as a hostage. When I rescued him, he was poisoned. In Hongmei pleaded with me, "Please, Chen, help me." She was asking me to absorb the poison into my body, to use my inner energy to resist the chill poison. "Chen, your internal energy is strong. You'll be fine. Yun Han's body is precious. He can't endure this pain." But she didn't know that Yun Han's poison combined perfectly with the bone penetration poison in my body, activating the deadly toxin. When In Hongmei and Yun Han were celebrating their victorious return at the city gate tower, fireworks bloomed one after another in the sky. Everyone went to watch, including Jie. Curled up in a tent at the military camp, I was in so much pain that I lost my senses. Only Mu Jiao stayed with me. Mu Jiao feared I would bite my tongue in pain and hurt myself. In a moment of desperation, she shoved her arm into my mouth. In my delirious state, I bit down, causing her to bleed profusely. Mu Jiao held her injured arm and watched over me, tears streaming down her face. "Chen, brother, what should I do?" Mu Jiao was no longer my servant. She was my sister. I told her not to cry, that it would pass. Sure enough, I survived the next day. It was then that Mu Jiao understood my thoughts and advised me. "Chen, you should run away. Don't stay by the Empress anymore. It will cost your life." Unfortunately, I didn't manage to escape. My health deteriorated, and sometimes my hand trembled even when holding a sword. If not for being In Hongmei's hidden guard, I aspired to fight on the borders, kill the invaders, and defend the country. To be that eagle soaring in the sky. But now, I'm like a small bird with broken wings. The doctor outside the city said I only have a year and a half to live. My body was already weakened when I replaced Yun Han's poison. In Hongmei doesn't need to know this. I've repaid what I owed her. But I can't leave either. I can endure the bone-piercing pain, but Mu Jiao and Jie cannot. In Hongmei even made non-hidden guards like Mu Jiao and Jie take the bone penetration drug. Jie tried to persuade me several times. "Brother, don't leave. The capital is fine. There's food and drink here, brother. Don't make me live a wandering life again." I gave a helpless, bitter smile. My heart was burdened with thoughts of my brother Jie and Mu Jiao. I was destined to never fly alone. The so-called water dungeon of the Qi dynasty is like purgatory. They hang a person by piercing their shoulder blades with iron chains and throw them into a filthy pool filled with salt. The timing is precise. They pull you up at the brink of death, and just when you think you might live after getting a breath of air, you're thrown back in. Over and over, unable to live or die. Watching as your body rots and festers, eaten by worms. Most people who've tasted the water prison bite their tongues to commit suicide. When In Hongmei had me pulled up, I was barely alive. Her eyes darkened a bit. "Chen, you've suffered. Chen, when I return from the ancestral temple, I'll make you my imperial attendant. Yes, after my wedding with Yun Han." The imperial attendant is a position only second to the prince consort. No hidden guard has ever held this position. Even Yin Hongmei's lowly father was a dignified 7th rank official. It was the first time Yin Hongmei had said such a thing to me. How much sincerity was in her eyes when she looked at me. This woman is heartless. Yes, she is an empress, not an ordinary woman. Her love is no longer pure. Does she love Yun Han? Maybe she does, but it's also because Yun Han's powerful maternal clan can help her seize the throne. Do you know why Yin Hongmei agreed to put me in the water dungeon? Because she said, "Chen, you're being disobedient again." She was punishing me in her own way. Aside from making me explicitly kill Yun Han's brother, she also wanted me to secretly assassinate the 3rd princess. Other hidden guards could have done this, but I had defied her too many times recently. I touched her reverse scale. "Chen, I insist that you do this." But I didn't listen to her. I didn't kill the 3rd princess. The 3rd princess isn't as cruel and vicious as rumors say. She is a compassionate royal princess. In fact, I failed that day. It was my first mission as an assassin that I failed. My old wounds suddenly flared up, and I couldn't get up. The 3rd princess didn't kill me. "Chen, your name is Chen, right? I admire you. I remember you competed in archery on horseback with warriors of the border, hitting every target perfectly. I also remember when you and Hongmei fought in the southern region and single-handedly beheaded the enemy general. I further recall the year you were 13, picking up a little girl fighting with dogs for food on the streets. She was wary of you, but you bit into that dirty bun and told her you were the same. Her eyes sparkled with a look similar to Yin Hongmei's. I was a bit intimidated. I calmly told her, "But I came to kill you." She gave me a deep look. "You could have moved when you entered, but you didn't. Not until your old wounds acted up." She saw right through me. I didn't deny it. "Because you're not as narrow-minded or ruthless as the Empress says." The 3rd princess smiled. Hongmei is no longer the person who only dreamed of unifying the land. She sighed. Now, she loves the throne more than anything. I vaguely understood then. After returning to the palace that day, I investigated repeatedly and confirmed the truth. The revelation suffocated me. She once said, "Chen, those people deserve to die. They were all corrupt officials. I won't let Chen stain your hands with innocent blood." Ha! I've stained my hands with the blood of many upright officials. For her selfish desires. Chen really deserved to die. My faith collapsed. How should I apologize to them in the afterlife? I looked at the radiant Yin Hongmei before me. She looked extremely unfamiliar, detestable. "Chen, do you want to be an imperial attendant? This is a position only second to the prince consort. A lowly hidden guard becoming an imperial attendant. It's an enormous blessing. The old me would have been ecstatic. But now I had no heart left. She repeatedly abandoned me for Yun Han and used me. The human heart, made of flesh, eventually feels pain. After enough pain, it goes numb. Yes. Actually, I don't want to, not even a bit. Could you help me apply medicine to my wound, Your Majesty?" She raised the corners of her lips. "Sure, Chen." After Yin Hongmei left, then I remembered that Mu Jiao hadn't been around me for a long time. The girl who usually clung to my bedside all day was nowhere to be seen for a whole day. "Jie, where is Mu Jiao?" Jie hesitated, saying nothing. A vague sense of panic arose in my heart. Uncharacteristically, I used harsh words towards Jie. "Tell the truth. Mu Jiao is dead." Mu Jiao died outside the palace while buying osmanthus cakes for me. She knew I loved the osmanthus cakes from the shop in the eastern part of the city. The palace chefs couldn't make them as well as that shop's cooks. She died in an alley, her clothes disheveled and her body a bloody mess. She was harassed by some thugs, and when she struggled hard, I felt a sweet taste in my throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Struggling hard was wrong too? Mu Jiao was a young girl who loved to look beautiful. There were times when I thought she talked too much. She would chatter around me nonstop. "Master, I want to see the sunset over H City." "Master, you must really like osmanthus cakes, right?" I laughed. Actually, she was the one who loved them. The osmanthus cakes were crisp and delicious, and with one bite, she would squint her eyes in a smile. Master Chen, meeting you in this lifetime is truly wonderful. In Mu Jiao's heart, you are not just the master, you're a brother. In my heart, she was my little sister. Clever, kind-hearted, and a bit greedy. Mu Jiao was only 16 this year, 2 years younger than Jie. She hadn't yet seen the sunset over H City. Her life shouldn't have been this short. For the first time, I lost my reason and wanted to kill for myself. I picked up the flowing cloud sword, but before I could step out of the room, Yun Han came to me on his own. Chen, are you going to kill me? Yun Han gently shook his folding fan, his smile contemptuous and confident. I didn't waste words on him. You killed Mu Jiao. His smile turned cruel. My beloved brother is dead. Someone has to pay for it. A trace of doubt arose in my heart. Usually, he would have gone after Jie first. It was then I realized. My whole body felt numb and powerless. You've poisoned me? I didn't even have the strength to sit up. Who could have poisoned me here? In that instant, I looked at Jie in disbelief. A flash of guilt passed through Jie's eyes. He knelt and begged Yun Han. You won't kill my brother, right? Yun Han laughed lightly. When did I ever promise you that? I only said I'd help you get the position of royal attendant afterward, and in the coming days, you'd first be the Empress's personal attendant. Jie didn't dare meet my eyes. My heart ached as if it were being squeezed. Fine, very fine. This is the younger brother I've protected and cherished since childhood. Human nature is indeed unpredictable. I spat out a mist of blood. Jie's face and Yun Han's fan were stained red. Jie stared at me blankly. Brother! Yun Han was furious. Take him and bring the instruments of torture. Yun Han ordered someone to sever the tendons of my hands and feet. Despairingly, I asked Jie, do you really want me dead? I am your blood brother, after all. For his sake, I sold myself. For his sake, even though it broke my pride, I didn't leave alone. Imprisoned in this palace city, outwardly everyone still respected me as the Empress's shadow guard. In private, they all said I was the Empress's plaything. He's nothing but a worthless item, yet he still dares to compete for favor with Yun Han. Jie knelt and trembled, saying, that day I heard you and Mu Jiao talking. You said you were near death. If you are about to die, why not help Jie one last time? Jie wants to live. Jie, I didn't expect you to be so good at looking out for yourself. Actually, he didn't know I had already arranged a place for him and Mu Jiao. The third princess had promised me she would provide the antidote for the bone penetration poison. She would find a chance to escort them out of the city. Today, I originally intended to call Mu Jiao in and tell them both. Who knew Jie would be so impatient? I was pressed onto the bed. Someone covered my face with wet oil paper. Yun Han's smile was indifferent. No one will save you anymore. Enjoy this beautiful feeling of suffocation. With just the second layer, my breathing was already labored. Jie was being taken out by Yun Han. As the third layer covered me, a palace attendant reported. The Empress had returned to the palace and wanted to see Chen. They commanded someone to press my mute point before exiting the room. Yun Han, why are you here to see Chen? Hongmei, do you see me as that petty? Whatever Hongmei likes, I will embrace. Hongmei, would you like Jie to be your personal attendant? Hongmei was a bit surprised, thinking that Yun Han wanted to make peace with me, willing to promote my brother. Hongmei, Chen just fell asleep. Let him rest, right Jie? I heard Jie's firm voice. Yes, brother just fell asleep. Hearing Jie say this, Hongmei had no doubts. Just then, a palace attendant came to report that there was an issue with the previous court. Hongmei and Yun Han chatted intimately for a while. Laughter flowed through the door cracks, adding the final touch to my death. Had Hongmei been as suspicious as usual and barged in, maybe the scene would have been different. In fate, there seemed to be a predetermined path. As she walked away, another layer of wet oil paper was added to my face, and another. The air was slowly being drawn out of my lungs. In my struggle with suffocation, I lost consciousness. After suffocating, my soul ascended. I looked down at everything about myself. I was in no hurry to leave. The show wasn't over yet. Yunhan had someone make me into a clay figurine. He placed it in a corner of his courtyard. Perhaps death isn't such a bad thing. Watching the flowers bloom and fall in the courtyard, observing the clouds rolling and unrolling in the sky. Chen was no longer Yin Hongmei's hidden guard, just a free soul. Recently, Yin Hongmei has been busy with important affairs of the court and her impending large wedding with Yunhan. She momentarily forgot about me, but she didn't forget Yunhan. Every day she finds time to visit him in his hall. He hasn't received the title of prince consort yet, but he is already enjoying those honors. They meet daily, indulging in sweet intimacy. His personal attendant asked him cautiously, "What if the Empress finds out about Chen?" Yunhan chuckled lightly. "Hongmei loves me. At most, she'll punish me a bit and it will be over." "Then when do you plan to inform the Empress?" Although Jie helps cover it up every day, saying Chen doesn't want to see the Empress recently, the Empress's suspicions are growing. No rush. In 5 days, after the wedding ceremony. Yunhan calculated it well, wanting to secure his position as prince consort before revealing anything. I became interested, wanting to see how Yin Hongmei would react when she found out I was dead. Didn't she say we would never be apart? Now that I'm dead, will she come join me in the underworld? Indeed, those words did come from me. But at that time, Yin Hongmei was still a girl with sincere loves and hates. The first time my heart was moved was among the hibiscus flowers by the West River. At that time, Yin Hongmei was being hunted. Her opponents were too powerful. Nothing more than her elder and younger sisters. The feelings among the royal family were always thin. I was hit by a poisoned arrow. All other guards were wiped out. We hid among the hibiscus flowers. She angrily said, "I hate hibiscus flowers the most. Every time I encounter hibiscus flowers, nothing good comes of it." I dared not say it was because she was nicknamed after the flower, and her third elder sister was nicknamed Peony. Her name was overshadowed by her sisters, and her father's support even more so. Since she was a child, Yin Hongmei's father loved to compare her with her third elder sister. During the assassination, she could have abandoned me and escaped alone with a greater chance of survival. But she ran a few steps and came back. She started tearing my clothes randomly. "Your Majesty, this isn't appropriate." Both being 16-year-olds, it was a time of youthful vigor. She laughed. "Chen, you emotionless block, you're actually blushing." "I'm not emotionless, I just don't like to laugh." Which secret guard could smile while killing? "I'm not brooding. Privately, I had heard many princesses kept male favorites." I said seriously, "I'm a hidden guard selling skills to survive. It doesn't include anything else." Yin Hongmei paused, then burst out laughing. "What are you thinking? I'm sucking out the poison blood for you." "Ah!" Before I could refuse, she quickly leaned over and pressed her cold lips to my wound. The loose strands of her hair brushed over my shoulder, softly, tickling, reaching straight to my heart. When a hibiscus petal fell, she fainted. The poison blood caused her to lose consciousness briefly. In fact, I had intended for her to escape and then I would follow. This poisoned arrow was really nothing to me. Over the years, what wounds hadn't I suffered? A cheap life lives on. I had long found this ruthless woman disagreeable. While she treated me well, it was like raising a puppy. But she didn't leave and even sucked the poison out for me. Without an antidote that could truly be life-threatening. My heart suddenly softened. I carried her into a hidden cave. Half conscious, she muttered, "Father, I was wrong. Don't abandon Hongmei." Yin Hongmei's father had an urgent obsession with the throne. Once, he threw Yin Hongmei into a wolf den to cultivate her courage, because she didn't listen to her father and kept a cat. "Hongmei, get rid of it." "No, please, father." "Hongmei, being emotional will harm you." Yin Hongmei was never allowed to have things she liked from a young age. Once she did, her father would ruthlessly destroy it. The heir must abandon personal likes to remain invincible. That cat was ultimately skinned and hung in In Hongmei's bed curtains. Blood dripped on her forehead. The next day, she was thrown into the wolf den again. After a day and night, In Hongmei crawled out covered in blood. Wolf carcasses lay scattered in the cave, stabbed to death. From then on, In Hongmei changed, never loving anything again. She was no longer vulnerable. In the cave, even in a coma, her fists were tightly clenched. I gently pried them open and relaxed her. When the sunlight softly touched her face, she woke up, rarely confused. She opened her almond eyes wide. "Chen, I thought you would leave. After all, I haven't treated you well." "Not very well," I spoke honestly. She gave me training tasks that were many times harder than others, and wounds many times more. If not for my strong will, I would have met the Ghost Lord many times over. For the first time, a trace of guilt appeared in her eyes, gently pulling down my neck, pressing a kiss on my lips. "Chen, please don't leave me, okay?" I was stunned for a moment before coming to my senses. Unexpectedly hoarse, I replied, "I won't." My heart keeps pounding nonstop. I wasn't this excited the first time I carried out an assassination mission. I finally start to understand what the novels say. Seducing someone is one of the most formidable skills in the world. "Chen, we'll never be apart, okay?" "Okay." I initially thought this promise would last a lifetime. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. In Hongmei and Yun Han's wedding day is approaching. The night before, In Hongmei once again came to Yun Han's bedchamber. My terracotta figure stands in the moonlight, watching them admire the moon, drink tea, and lean on each other. In Hongmei has looked tired lately, more fatigued day by day. Her body feels weak, her spirit is low, and she has splitting headaches. Imperial physicians came one after another, but none could figure it out. "I haven't seen Chen in a long time. Call him in. Let him give me a massage." The courtiers were silent. In Hongmei frowned. "Why is he still so angry? He hasn't cooled down yet?" She thought I was angry at her because of Mu Jiao, although Mu Jiao was ordered killed by Yun Han. Without In Hongmei's approval, Yun Han's people couldn't have killed her. Whenever I, Jie, or Mu Jiao left the palace, there were always other hidden guards tracking us. Yun Han wanted to vent his anger. In Hongmei didn't stop him. Compared to the assistance from Yun Han's powerful family, what does a mere maid matter? Even if that maid once saved her life. During the fight for the throne in southern that year, In Hongmei and I were both seriously injured. When the enemy charged at us with a sword again, Mu Jiao stood up and held the assassin tightly, stabbed so badly that her intestines were almost cut out. "You fool! Wouldn't it have been better to hide with Jie in the dark? Brother is here." Even after taking the medicine, Mu Jiao was still grimacing in pain. "Brother Chen, the wound on your leg is so big, even a little rabbit could jump in. Brother Chen's back is bleeding out. If you die, there's no one to save the princess. And if the princess isn't saved, you'll die too. As long as Brother Chen and the princess are alive, I'm happy." In Hongmei laughed and asked, "What reward do you want?" Mu Jiao thought for a long time. "I want to eat lotus cakes for the rest of my life." In Hongmei laughed. "Such a simple wish." Mu Jiao died on her way to buy lotus cakes. If In Hongmei had just a little bit of compassion, Mu Jiao wouldn't have been humiliated by a dozen people. Nor would she have died so brutally. Rather than say Yun Han killed her, it would be more accurate to say Yun Han and In Hongmei together killed her. In Hongmei didn't ask anyone to summon me again. Yun Han breathed a sigh of relief, clenching and then unclenching his fist. In Hongmei cast a suspicious glance at Yun Han's fingers. The tips were slightly dark. Oh, she's starting to suspect something. In the Qi dynasty, there's an old saying, "Those who poison others themselves often have darkened fingers." The show is finally about to begin. The grand wedding proceeded as scheduled. In Hongmei and Yun Han ascended the 100-layer jade staircase, receiving the worship of tens of thousands. At this moment, their wishes had come true. Yun Han, the son of Prime Minister Yun, was handsome and knowledgeable. After meeting him once at a poetry society, In Hongmei returned to tell me, Chen, I fancy him. My prince consort should be like this. In the study, she showed a maiden's shyness for the first time, sketching his likeness on rice paper. A dashing and graceful young man, perfectly crafted. I suppressed the bitterness in my heart. She would soon be the empress reigning above millions. Indeed, she needed an imperial consort with a deep family background. True feelings were rare in the imperial family. Powerful family support was always the bargaining chip. In Hongmei was lucky, at least the bargaining chip became real feelings. I would always be a dutiful shadow guard, or guard the borders, serve as a defending soldier. With In Hongmei's governance and benevolence, she would surely bring stability to our country. Later on, she was still her and yet not her. In Hongmei's blood grew cold. She gradually became mad. Her ruthless side grew day by day. Her previous kindness was nothing but an illusion. She framed me for most things in the past. She killed many good ministers. When she personally led troops to fight the northern Rome, she gave the order for a city massacre. I knelt and begged her, Your Majesty, once the enemy is eradicated, only unarmed civilians remain. What's the point of slaughter? She sneered, Chen is being disobedient again? I understood then. The slaughter was merely to establish her terrifying authority. That day I silently sat on my horse, feeling utterly barren inside. The In Hongmei who once cooked noodles for me, asking if they were tasty, died in my heart. After the grand wedding, In Hongmei's steps were unsteady. She accidentally stepped off, taking Yun Han with her, rolling down the steps. But this time, there was no Chen to swiftly support her up. She stood, turned, and ferociously grabbed Yun Han. Where is Chen? Where did you hide him? In Hongmei was very clever. She quickly realized my absence over the past few days had something to do with Yun Han. House arrest? Whipping him? Is that it? Yun Han said nothing. Tell the truth. Beating him is beating him. Chen is strong. He won't be affected much. In Hongmei believed that Yun Han wouldn't kill me. Yun Han's face briefly showed unease. Then he composed himself. Hongmei, who is more important, Yun Han or Chen? In Hongmei smiled. Are you jealous? Of course you are more important. Chen is just a hidden guard. Just a hidden guard. Yun Han's face lit up with joy. Hongmei, Chen is in my courtyard. In Hongmei was stunned for a while. What do you mean? Yun Han said calmly, Hongmei, this is my only obsession. Satisfy it, won't you? Chen killed my brother. Shouldn't he pay for it with his life? In Hongmei's eyes rarely showed confusion. She said nothing and walked towards the courtyard of Yun Han's bedchamber. Her steps became faster and faster, not even sitting in the carriage, leaving everyone else behind. Finally, her gaze fell on the clay figure in the courtyard. In the Qi dynasty, it was customary to place clay figures in the courtyards. She once thought it was just an ordinary clay figure. Tell me, is Chen inside it? In Hongmei's tone was terrifyingly soft. No one dared to make a sound. In Hongmei's gaze shot to the attendant Jie. Jie, trembling, said, Yes, it's brother. Yun Han stepped forward and held In Hongmei's hand. Hongmei, today is our wedding day. Let's not talk about others. In Hongmei stared at Yun Han, enunciating each word. He is not others. He is Chen. How could you dare to make him into a clay figure? In Hongmei gave Yun Han 2 fierce slaps. Yun Han's face instantly swelled, embarrassed to the extreme in front of everyone. When had the dignified young master Yun Han of the Qi dynasty ever suffered such humiliation? He gritted his teeth. I not only made him into a clay figure, but I also suffocated him to death with wet oil paper. I severed his tendons and left one intact. After he died, the finger of that unsevered tendon was bald. It was scratched bald while he struggled. When he was struggling to breathe, Hongmei, you were outside the door. The courtyard was silent. No one could have expected the usually gentle and elegant Yun Han to be so ruthless. He was gambling that In Hongmei wouldn't dare kill him. His maternal family's power was strong enough. He was also fighting back against Yin Hongmei, because on the day he died I told him, "I have no grudge against your brother. Who wanted to kill him, you should know by now." His face turned ashen. But he couldn't let go of his position as the royal consort and wanted to be a good brother. In reality, his brother had no dealings with the third princess. He was a fool, and the third princess didn't fancy him. Yin Hongmei was simply being suspicious. At this moment, a palace servant came to report. "Your Majesty, the third princess reports that Prime Minister Yun has betrayed the nation for personal gain, and the evidence is solid." Yun Han's face instantly lost all color. "Hongmei, you said you loved me." Yin Hongmei's face was stern. "Does Yun Han love me?" Yun Han nodded like pounding garlic. "Then why did you poison me?" She grabbed Yun Han's finger to show him. "My constant headaches. Who else could it be but you?" Yun Han was stunned. "Hongmei, I never poisoned you. The imperial physician will decide." Soon the imperial physicians entered in single file. The old physician with a goatee said, "Your Majesty, the poison in your body matches the poison on Yun Han's fingertips. This poison is called the hibiscus blossom tragedy." "What are the effects of this poison?" "Mild cases cause a pale complexion. Severe cases result in weak limbs and splitting headaches. The poison can only be detected 7 days later. If not treated in time, it will result in bleeding from the 7 orifices and death. With a face like a withered hibiscus, hence the name hibiscus blossom tragedy." "Yun Han, the poison on your fingertips does not lie. If I remember correctly, your grandmother is from Y City, which is known for its poisons." Yun Han trembled all over and kowtowed in plea. "Hongmei, I am being framed." Yin Hongmei's red lips parted slightly. "Someone, make Yun Han suffer the same fate as Chen. No, make it double. After making him a clay figure, throw him into the foulest cesspit in the world." Yun Han was silent, collapsing to the ground. Jie was trembling uncontrollably. Yin Hongmei rubbed her aching temples. "Such an ungrateful brother. Chop him up and feed him to the dogs." A yellow puddle flowed from Jie's pant leg. My soul was neither sad nor joyous. Jie was foolish, this shouldn't have happened. Yin Hongmei embraced my clay figure every day. "Chen, you said you would never leave me, didn't you? You broke your promise, Chen. You broke your promise." Cold tears flowed into the neck of the clay figure. I could no longer feel them. "Hongmei, why such deep affection? When he was alive, you didn't cherish him. Now you pretend to be sentimental. Sister, your judgment is poor. Even that embroidered pillow Yun Han caught your eye." Yin Hongmei was unsettled. "How did you get in?" The third princess smiled. "I walked in openly. Your capital's defense system is nothing impressive." Yin Hongmei staggered for a moment. Although she had taken the antidote for the hibiscus blossom tragedy, her body was still weak. "Who betrayed me?" Yin Hongmei's face was full of anger, and her complexion unusually red. She drew the soft sword from her waist. "Third princess, since you came here yourself, not killing you would be impolite." The third princess didn't move, just stared at my clay figure. Poor Chen. Yin Hongmei suddenly lost all strength, curling into a ball. Her beautiful eyes, nose, mouth, and ears started to ooze blood. The blood kept flowing. Could not be wiped away. How could this be? She panicked. "Someone help!" All around was silence. The entire royal city was as quiet as death. In fact, outside the palace gates, 30,000 soldiers were lined up in perfect order. "Since you're about to die, I might as well tell you. The poison was administered by Chen." Her pupils dilated in shock. "After I was released from the water dungeon, I never let anyone else change my dressing. Even Mu Jiao was anxious, because only I know that the poison is hidden in my wound, and my blood contains the toxin of the hibiscus blossom tragedy. Using my body as a vessel, even a tiny amount of contact can result in poisoning. What's more, she applies medicine to me every day, and I even intentionally or unintentionally press her hand on the wound." Yin Hongmei's face turned ashen. What about Yun Han's poison? It was also Chen who did it. It had nothing to do with Yun Han's family. It was all just a coincidence. That day, he brutally attacked me. The blood I spat out stained his face. I did it on purpose. Both Jie and he were poisoned, but the toxicity was minimal. My dear sister, the defense map of the capital that I acquired was also given to me by Chen. Impossible. No one can escape my surveillance. The third princess shook her head. Do you remember Mu Jiao? Mu Jiao ostensibly bought hibiscus cakes for me. In reality, she was delivering messages to the third princess. Halfway through, I regretted it. I ordered someone to call Mu Jiao back to the city. I couldn't bear for Yin Hongmei's lifelong obsession to be destroyed in an instant. Perhaps she could still be a benevolent ruler. But alas, she allowed Yun Han to kill Mu Jiao out of anger. The third princess retrieved the corpse. The defense map was hidden on Mu Jiao's back. Drawn with special materials, after I finished the drawing, Mu Jiao imprinted it on her back. Once it dried, it showed no trace. Mu Jiao would spray her back with white wine to reveal it. The third princess bent down, looking at the pained Yin Hongmei. You were supposed to have the antidote. Unfortunately, Chen is dead. Yin Hongmei planted the mother-daughter goo in me. The hibiscus blossom tragedy had the goo contamination. The poison was mutual, and so was life and death. If I had taken the antidote before I died, Yin Hongmei would have taken it too. Everything would have still been possible. But alas, I died. From then on, there was no antidote for this poison. Yin Hongmei died unfulfilled. Her face as beautiful as a hibiscus flower, blood streaming from her 7 orifices. As she spat out blood bubbles, she looked at my clay figure. Chen, wait for me. Yin Hongmei. Chen wasn't willing anymore. In this life, we would never meet again. Later, my soul transformed into an eagle, soaring through the skies, watching the third princess inherit the kingdom, seeing the country prosperous and the people at peace.